If there is one habit that distinguishes people who build strong, healthy relationships, it is consistent emotional awareness. This is not a dramatic or flashy quality, it is quiet, often invisible, but it underpins almost every other aspect of relational success. Emotional awareness is the ability to notice, understand, and manage your own feelings while also being attuned to the emotional world of your partner. It is not a skill you master once, it is a practice you cultivate continuously, like tending a garden, because emotions, like plants, grow, change, and sometimes take unexpected forms. Most of us live in a reactive mode, believing that love alone is sufficient to maintain connection. We assume that attraction, shared interests, or affection will protect the relationship. But love without awareness is fragile. It is easily destabilized by misunderstanding, misinterpretation, or unexamined reactions. People often do not realize that the way they respond to a partner's words or actions can either strengthen or weaken the connection far more than the actions themselves. Emotional awareness is the lens that allows us to see clearly not only what is happening in the relationship, but what is happening inside ourselves. This practice begins with self-reflection. It requires the courage to ask difficult questions. What am I feeling in this moment? Why am I feeling it? Am I reacting to my partner? Or am I reacting to something from my own past, a fear, a disappointment, or a pattern that has little to do with them? When you can answer these questions honestly, you gain clarity. You separate your internal narrative from the present reality, and in doing so, you create the space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Think about conflict. Conflicts are inevitable in any meaningful relationship. But habitual reactivity turns minor disagreements into long-lasting resentment. Emotional awareness transforms conflict from a battlefield into an opportunity for understanding. When you recognize that anger is masking fear or that withdrawal may be a protective mechanism, you can respond with curiosity rather than defensiveness. You can engage your partner in a way that deepens connection rather than creating distance. Emotional awareness also includes the recognition of positive emotions, gratitude, desire, joy, and appreciation. People who build strong relationships notice these moments, however subtle, and respond to them. They acknowledge the smile, the touch, the tone of voice that communicates care and affection. In doing so, they amplify intimacy, reinforcing the relational bonds that sustain the connection through challenges. Emotional awareness turns ordinary interactions into meaningful acts of connection. Empathy is an essential extension of this awareness, but true empathy is not simply imagining what your partner feels. It is entering their emotional world without judgment and without the immediate urge to fix or correct. This requires self-regulation. If you are overwhelmed by your own reactions, you cannot fully meet your partner's experience. Emotional awareness allows you to hold your own feelings with clarity while being fully present to theirs. It is this balance, presence with oneself and presence with the other, that cultivates emotional safety, the invisible architecture of healthy relationships. Developing this habit is not always easy. It demands humility and patience. It requires the acknowledgement of patterns that may be uncomfortable to confront, ways you withdraw, react, or avoid difficult emotions. It requires the willingness to explore your own vulnerabilities, to accept that growth is ongoing and imperfection is inevitable. But these challenges are precisely what make emotional awareness transformative. By engaging with your internal landscape deliberately and consistently, you are better equipped to navigate the complexities of intimacy. Importantly, emotional awareness changes the relational dynamic itself. It creates a space where your partner feels seen, understood, and validated. They are less likely to interpret your actions through a lens of insecurity or doubt. They are more willing to be vulnerable, to share their fears, and to engage openly in both ordinary and difficult conversations. Emotional awareness begets trust, and trust begets deeper intimacy. It is a self-reinforcing habit. The more you practice, the more secure and connected the relationship becomes. Philosophically, emotional awareness is a practice of presence. To be aware is to inhabit your life fully, to feel deeply, and to bring that full consciousness into your relationship. It is an act of courage because it requires honesty, reflection, and the willingness to confront discomfort. And yet, this courage is profoundly rewarding. It transforms love from a passive feeling into an active engagement, a deliberate co-creation of connection. So the question is not whether you love your partner, but whether you are consistently aware of your own emotions, aware of theirs, and aware of the interplay between the two. Because the people who build strong, healthy relationships are not those who are perfect, but those who cultivate awareness. They are attentive, reflective, and courageous enough to meet themselves and their partner in the full complexity of human emotion. Emotional awareness is not optional. It is the daily, conscious practice that turns love into resilience, connection, and lasting intimacy. If emotional awareness is the soil in which relationships take root, then trust is the structure that allows them to grow strong and endure the inevitable storms of life. And yet, trust is one of the most elusive and misunderstood elements of intimacy. People often speak about trust as if it is a single moment, a grand gesture, a confession, or a decisive act of loyalty. But in reality, trust is cumulative. It is built quietly, incrementally, in the small, seemingly mundane choices we make every day. It is not an abstraction. It is demonstrated through action, consistency, and integrity. Trust begins with reliability. It is the unremarkable, repeated moments of showing up that lay the groundwork for a secure connection. When you do what you say you will do, call when you promise, meet when you agree, follow through on shared responsibilities, you are sending a signal far deeper than words can express. You can count on me. I am here. And this reliability is not limited to major life events. A partner who is consistent in minor ways, listening attentively, remembering small details, honoring commitments, builds a pattern of trust that becomes almost invisible in its power. Conversely, inconsistency, even in small matters, can corrode trust slowly, imperceptibly, until doubt has taken root. Yet, trust is not only about action, it is about integrity. Integrity is the alignment between what you say and what you do. It is the honesty to speak the truth, even when it is difficult, and the courage to confront uncomfortable realities rather than avoid them. Integrity reassures your partner that your words have weight, that they reflect your intentions, and that they are not mere gestures to placate or manipulate. A relationship without integrity may continue to function on the surface, but it lacks the stability necessary for deep intimacy. An essential and often overlooked dimension of trust is the willingness to repair when mistakes occur. No one is perfect, and every partnership will experience moments of failure, missed commitments, lapses in judgment, or unintentional hurt. What distinguishes enduring relationships is not the absence of these breaches, but the response to them. Repair requires acknowledgement, accountability, and deliberate action to restore confidence. It is an act of humility, and paradoxically, it strengthens trust more than unbroken perfection ever could. A partner who can admit, "I was wrong, I see how this hurt you, and I will make it right," communicates reliability on the deepest level. Philosophically, trust is an act of vulnerability. To trust another person is to accept uncertainty, to open yourself to the possibility of disappointment, and yet choose to remain present. You cannot control another's actions, predict every response, or eliminate risk entirely. To trust is to engage courageously with the unknown, knowing that connection itself requires exposure. This is the paradox of trust. It is not the absence of risk, but the willingness to stay committed in the face of it. And it is this willingness that forms the foundation for intimacy, desire, and long-term partnership. Trust is reciprocal, but it cannot be demanded or coerced. You cannot simply insist that your partner trust you. Trust must be earned through consistent behavior over time. And the paradox is that the more you invest in reliability, integrity, and repair, the more natural and effortless trust becomes. It is no longer something that must be constantly questioned or reaffirmed. It becomes the quiet, stabilizing force that allows a relationship to flourish. Emotional reliability is as important as factual reliability. People need to know not just that you will keep promises, but that you will respond with care, empathy, and attention to their emotional needs. Unpredictability, sudden withdrawal, defensiveness, or inattention can undermine trust, even if promises are technically kept. Emotional constancy creates a relational environment in which vulnerability is safe, intimacy is possible, and desire can be sustained. Without this emotional consistency, even a well-intentioned partner can feel insecure, anxious, or distant. Trust also has a cumulative, almost compounding effect. Small acts of reliability, integrity, and repair accumulate into a profound sense of security. When trust is established, both partners are free to explore, to be vulnerable, and to invest emotionally without fear. Desire and intimacy flourish because attention is no longer consumed by doubt or vigilance. Trust is, in essence, the oxygen of healthy relationships. Without it, even the strongest bond can suffocate under uncertainty. Ultimately, becoming the partner who builds trust is a practice, not a destination. It requires mindfulness, attention, and a commitment to align words with actions. It requires the courage to admit mistakes, repair harm, and remain open in the face of uncertainty. It requires awareness of the subtle ways that small actions, consistent listening, remembering, following through, communicate reliability more powerfully than grand gestures ever could. So the question is not whether you are trustworthy in moments of ease, but whether your daily habits consistently create safety, predictability, and integrity. Because in the end, relationships are not sustained by passion alone or by declarations of love. They are sustained by the quiet, consistent, intentional choices that allow trust to grow and endure. Trust is not a gift to be given lightly. It is a responsibility to be embodied daily through actions, words, and unwavering integrity. If trust forms the foundation of a healthy relationship, then communication is the living structure that allows it to breathe, grow, and adapt. And yet, communication is often treated as a simple transaction. We speak, they listen, and we assume understanding has occurred. But in reality, communication is far more subtle, nuanced, and essential. It is both the mirror and the medium of intimacy. It reveals what we feel, what we need, and perhaps most importantly, how we choose to show up for each other. Many people confuse speaking with communicating. To speak is to release words. To communicate is to create understanding. And this distinction is critical. We can articulate every thought with perfect clarity and still fail to connect because we have not considered tone, timing, or the emotional landscape of the person listening. Communication in relationships is not about winning an argument, proving a point, or asserting superiority. It is about connection, and that requires awareness, presence, and intention. Effective communication begins with clarity. Clarity is more than choosing precise words. It is the willingness to explore your own feelings and needs before expressing them. It asks, what am I really experiencing? What do I want to convey? How can I say this in a way that strengthens our connection rather than damages it? Without this reflection, words are often loaded with projection, blame, or reactivity. Saying, "You never consider my feelings," communicates frustration, but it does not invite dialogue. Saying, "I feel overlooked" when plans are changed without discussion, communicates experience and need, leaving space for understanding and collaboration. Listening is the counterpart to clarity, and it is equally challenging. Listening in a relationship is not passive. It is active, deliberate, and often counterintuitive. True listening requires temporarily suspending your own judgments, assumptions, and the instinct to respond. It requires curiosity, patience, and a willingness to enter your partner's emotional world without attempting to correct or fix it immediately. When a partner feels truly heard, it reduces defensiveness, fosters trust, and deepens intimacy. It is the recognition that being understood is often more valuable than being right. There is a critical distinction between understanding and agreeing. Many conflicts escalate because people feel they must share perspectives to validate understanding. But empathy does not require agreement. It requires acknowledgement. It requires the willingness to hold the other person's experience as valid, even if it is not shared. This creates a relational space where differences do not threaten connection and where dialogue replaces defensiveness. Timing and emotional regulation are also essential to communication. Difficult conversations rarely succeed when initiated from a place of anger, exhaustion, or stress. Responding without reflection leads to defensiveness, escalation, and disconnection. Communication with intention involves pausing to center yourself, to recognize your triggers, and to choose words and tone that reinforce connection. It is a practice of self-control, not suppression, and it transforms potential conflict into opportunity. Avoidance is a common pitfall in relationships. Many choose silence, hoping tension will dissipate or that the problem will solve itself. But unspoken issues rarely vanish. They accumulate, manifesting as subtle resentment, withdrawal, or passive aggression. Avoidance may feel safe in the moment, but over time, it undermines trust and erodes intimacy. Courageous communication, by contrast, addresses challenges openly while maintaining respect and care. It acknowledges discomfort without letting it dictate disengagement. Communication is also about expressing the positive as much as navigating the difficult. Appreciation, curiosity, affection, and desire are often overlooked in daily dialogue. They are the glue of connection, the subtle signals that sustain intimacy and reinforce emotional safety. A relationship that only communicates in conflict or correction becomes transactional, sterile, and ultimately unsatisfying. Words of recognition, moments of vulnerability, and expressions of joy nourish desire and trust in equal measure. Philosophically, communication is a practice of relational presence. It requires us to inhabit our own emotional truth while being fully present to another's. It is a delicate balance of honesty and empathy, clarity and compassion, expression and listening. Communication is not a performance. It is a living negotiation between two interior worlds, each seeking understanding and connection. Ultimately, the partners who excel in communication are those who approach it as a daily, conscious practice. They refine their words, tone, and timing. They listen actively and respond thoughtfully. They embrace discomfort as a sign of opportunity, not threat. And they create space for curiosity, appreciation, and dialogue that deepens intimacy and sustains trust. So the question is not whether you talk to your partner, but whether your communication consistently builds connection. Are your words bridging distance or creating separation? Are your silences nurturing understanding or allowing resentment to accumulate? Are you listening to understand or listening only to respond? Communication is not merely the exchange of words. It is the deliberate, courageous practice of creating understanding, connection, and intimacy in every interaction. If emotional awareness is the soil, trust the structure, and communication the living bridge, then growth is the habit that keeps a relationship vital, resilient, and alive. Growth in a relationship is often misunderstood as some dramatic transformation, a reinvention of self or partner, or a sudden, sweeping change in circumstances. But in truth, growth is a quiet, ongoing practice. It is the commitment to evolve individually and together, to confront stagnation, and to remain curious about both your own life and the life of your partner. Without it, even the strongest relationships can slowly become predictable, rigid, or unfulfilling. The first dimension of growth is personal. To support a healthy partnership, you must commit to developing yourself continuously. This does not mean striving for perfection or adhering to some idealized version of the perfect partner. It means examining your habits, your patterns, your emotional triggers, and your blind spots. It means asking yourself difficult questions. Where do I hold resentment? Where do I become defensive? Where am I avoiding vulnerability? Growth begins with the courage to see yourself clearly, to acknowledge both your strengths and your limitations, and to engage in deliberate reflection and self-improvement. Personal growth is not linear. There will be setbacks, moments of resistance, and recurring patterns that challenge your patience. Yet it is precisely in these moments that a partner demonstrates resilience and commitment. The person who grows consciously brings self-awareness, curiosity, and flexibility into the relationship. They can navigate challenges with reflection rather than reaction, and they model behaviors that invite their partner to do the same. Growth is contagious in the healthiest sense. When one person invests in evolving, it often inspires the other to engage in their own transformation. But growth cannot exist solely within the individual. It is inherently relational. A relationship is a living system, and as one partner evolves, the entire dynamic shifts. Supporting growth in a partner requires generosity, curiosity, and emotional maturity. It demands the ability to celebrate their achievements without envy, to welcome their changing perspectives without fear, and to remain open even when their growth challenges the status quo. This willingness to engage with change rather than resist it is what allows relationships to remain vibrant instead of stagnant. Growth also thrives on balance. There is a delicate equilibrium between independence and interdependence. Too much independence can create distance and isolation, while too much interdependence can stifle individuality and curiosity. The partners who sustain strong relationships are those who navigate this balance consciously. They honor their own development while actively supporting their partner's evolution. They cultivate shared experiences without sacrificing the exploration of personal passions. In this way, growth reinforces both connection and individuality, creating a partnership that is dynamic and resilient. Curiosity and novelty are essential tools for relational growth. Desire, intimacy, and engagement flourish when relationships continue to introduce moments of discovery and play. This does not require grand gestures or constant reinvention. It can be as simple as trying a new activity together, exploring new ideas, or asking questions that invite vulnerability and learning. Predictability can provide comfort, but it can also breed stagnation. Growth keeps the relational landscape alive, maintaining the spark that initially drew two people together. Growth is also deeply intertwined with patience and compassion. As individuals and relationships evolve, there will inevitably be friction, misunderstandings, and discomfort. Growth is not linear, and change can be unsettling. Partners who navigate this with patience, empathy, and mutual support demonstrate a profound commitment to the relationship. They do not retreat in fear, but instead hold space for exploration, dialogue, and adaptation. This willingness to tolerate discomfort while remaining engaged is a hallmark of relational maturity. Philosophically, growth in relationships is an acceptance of impermanence. People are not fixed, and love itself is not static. To resist change is to resist life, and to cling to past versions of a partner or relationship is to create frustration and stagnation. Growth invites us to embrace life as it is unfolding, to recognize that both we and our partners are constantly evolving, and to participate consciously in that evolution. It transforms relationships from static arrangements into living, breathing collaborations of two developing individuals. Ultimately, the habit of growth ensures that a relationship remains meaningful over time. It sustains intimacy, deepens trust, and maintains desire. It transforms relationships from safe but predictable partnerships into dynamic spaces of shared exploration and emotional richness. Growth turns love into a living practice, a continuous negotiation between two evolving selves rather than a static achievement. So the question is not whether your relationship feels comfortable or secure in this moment, but whether it is capable of evolving alongside the two people who inhabit it. Are you willing to grow intentionally, individually, and together, embracing the uncertainty and the beauty that change brings? Are you willing to support your partner's evolution while nurturing your own? Growth is not optional in love. It is the conscious, courageous practice that keeps a relationship alive, vibrant, and profoundly connected.